Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for being here today. Across the nation and right here in Illinois, we have witnessed a rapid rise of hate crimes and discrimination. Hate crimes reached an all-time high nationally last year, and Illinois experienced nearly 400 incidents in the year prior. As governor of this great state, as a person, and as someone who has stood up against hate throughout my life, I'm horrified by this trend. Horrified. This nation, this state cannot live up to our promise as a place of welcome and opportunity if it continues unabated and unchallenged. We are gathered here today to officially launch Help Stop Hate, a new resource that will help protect and empower victims and witnesses to incidents of hate. Through a free, confidential, and multilingual service, individuals can report hateful acts and get connected to resources in their communities that help them take action and find assistance in response. At this moment in our history, when some are condoning hateful violence and rhetoric, I encourage Illinoisans to stand up against it, show up for our communities, and report incidents. We can easily do that today online at ilstophate.org, ilstophate.org, or by phone 877-458-HATE or 877-458-4283. Putting this resource together has been an extensive effort that required hard work and coordination across state government. And I want to take a moment to thank some of the many people who have made this possible. Two of our state constitutional officers, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton and Attorney General Kwame Raoul. Our outstanding Director of the Department of Human Rights, Jim Bennett, and his entire staff. Executive Director Ilana Khan of the Illinois Commission on Discrimination and Hate Crimes, and all of the CDHC commissioners up here with me today. This is one of the most vexing and disturbing issues that I face as governor. In my years of traveling up and down our state, I have encountered the extraordinary capacity of Illinoisans for kindness and an unwavering spirit of welcome and inclusivity. I have seen communities come together in times of tremendous stress and hardship. I have seen strangers help one another in the darkest moments without regard to their backgrounds or their religion or their color of their skin. That is the Illinois that I know and love. And I believe firmly that that is who we are as a state and as a people. But more so lately, you see things that can challenge that view. Insults, discrimination, acts of violence aimed not at any one single individual, but meant to be aimed at an entire people. Heinous acts meant to degrade and dehumanize someone for some group that they belong to or the community they come from. These incidents are happening more and more frequently, and they are an anathema to us all. Words of denunciation aren't enough. We, those who stand against hate, those who stand by our neighbors, and those who stand up for a free and inclusive Illinois, must take action. Help Stop Hate is one critical tool in that work, filling a gap in our hate crime responses and allowing us to better assist and uplift targeted communities. These incidents too often go unreported because victims are unsure where to turn, hesitant to call the police, or maybe unaware that the act could be investigated as a hate crime. This service will allow people to report hate online or with a call to a specialized, trained person who's culturally competent and can provide trauma-informed care. This will be available to all residents and visitors, regardless of immigration status, of age, or zip code. And for any who choose, the reporting can be done completely anonymously. Our sole mission is to identify acts of hate, bring comfort and resources to the victims, and take appropriate action. This is a particularly critical time for this work. Over the weekend, an Orthodox Jewish man was shot as he walked into his synagogue in West Rogers Park. While the investigation is still ongoing, including a thorough examination of the intent behind the attack, I am horrified by the possibility that this was motivated by the faith of the victim. It is an urgent reminder of the progress that we still have to make so that all in Illinois can worship and live openly without fear for their safety. For any individual concerned, the Illinois State Police, the Commission on Discrimination and Hate Crimes, and the Department of Human Rights are vital resources for assisting and acting on any threats in this community and really in any community of Illinois. I want to once again remind all our fellow Illinoisans that each of us has a role to play in rooting out hate. And I encourage everyone, witnesses, victims, bystanders, to make use of this service. That is ilstophate.org or 877-458-4283. This effort we are announcing today brings me great comfort seeing dedicated servants and community leaders and members come together to live our highest ideals, to reject hate, and strive always to make Illinois a place where all are welcome. That is the Illinois I know. It's now my great pleasure to turn this podium over to my partner in governance and a true champion against bigotry, hatred, and intolerance, our great Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton.
Thank you, Governor, for your warm welcome and for leading Illinois toward a vision of peace. Hello, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, she, her pronouns, and I want to echo the Governor's heartfelt thanks to everyone who came together to make today possible. It's certainly an honor to be here with Attorney General Kwame Raoul, and I especially want to thank Director Jim Bennett and the entire team at the Illinois Department of Human Rights and those serving on the Illinois Commission on Discrimination and Hate Crimes. Thank you for taking care of our shared home. A famous quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is often invoked to promote peace. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. But I actually want to share the full quote, including his words just before. Returning hate for hate multiplies hate, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Imagine a night sky without a shred of brightness, a darkness so total that we lose the ability to recognize each other from just a few feet away. Perhaps a darkness so complete that we do not even recognize our own hands. I can remind you of hate's most brutal, bloody consequences simply by saying names. Matthew Shepard, Reverend Clementa Pinckney, Malala Yousafzai, Emmett Till. I could stand here for the next several hours and list example after example of what pox hate has left on the surface of our state, our country, our world. But as Dr. King says, dwelling in darkness does nothing to drive it out. Today, we celebrate the light Illinois offers not only for our people, but for those watching well beyond our borders. Before we can stop hate, we have to ensure that everyone in our community knows how to recognize it and feels safe to report it. And from there, we start filling in the gaps. Help Stop Hate addresses both of these goals at once. See, too many communities live with the reality that they are more likely to be victimized by hate because of the color of their skin, or immigration status, or because they believe in a higher power or love another person or themselves authentically. And unfortunately, too many of these same communities have learned to live with this reality as being just a part of life. Or they are too afraid to seek help because they do not trust the systems currently in place to offer support. Help Stop Hate offers a way beyond traditional law enforcement for people to report any display of rancor or intentional violence, multiplying the tools available for Illinoisans who need help. Please understand that at this moment, there are people gleefully working to empower our ugliest traits: bigotry, exclusion, vitriol, suspicion, all in the name of pure, unfettered hate. But the ability to create a world that teaches our children to listen, help, and love lies squarely in our hands. Hate may be powerful, but it is no match for the soul of Illinois. We have each other's backs. And when we see something that doesn't sit right, we don't wait to see what happens. We speak out. We advocate for our neighbors and protect everyone's right to safety, respect, and peace. We cannot control individual actions, but we can send a clear message with one voice. Our sky will never be devoid of stars. Hate has no home in Illinois. With that, I'd like to welcome another champion in the fight against hate and a more peaceful Illinois, Attorney General Kwame Raoul.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I think somebody heard it wrong, Governor. They might have heard it's Help Stop Heat. It's a little cool in here. In all seriousness, I'm very proud to stand here with our governor, Lieutenant Governor, the Illinois Department of Human Rights, and the Illinois Commission on Discrimination and Hate Crimes today to launch Help Stop Hate helpline and website. Through this helpline and website, the state of Illinois is providing an important confidential resource for individuals and communities who experience or witness hate incidents to report them and receive assistance. Help Stop Hate builds upon the state's multifaceted approach to combating hate and discrimination and sends a message that hate has no home here in Illinois. Help Stop Hate will direct individuals and communities to resources, including coordinating referrals to resources provided by my office. These efforts will also provide important data about the climate in our communities and guide us to identify patterns and practices of concern. My office works to combat hate and bias in Illinois, including by bringing civil and criminal prosecutions of hate crimes, and importantly, training law enforcement and prosecutors to recognize and respond to hate crimes and bias incidents. Oftentimes, underreporting of hate might be reflected by lack of understanding by law enforcement, and so we've been engaging in training law enforcement, and these specialized trainings are made possible by a DOJ grant. Just 2 days ago, I was at Main Justice and had an opportunity to chat with the Attorney General, Attorney General Garland and Lisa Monaco, and thank them for supporting our efforts to train law enforcement here in Illinois on recognizing hate. They've been developed, our training programs have been developed in partnership with community-based organizations and are intended to enhance the reporting, identification, prosecution of hate crimes across our state. My office also administers crime victims compensation program, which assists victims in paying bills and covering expenses that result from acts of violence that often accompany hate. I am committed to supporting the work of Help Stop Hate and the Commission of Discrimination and Hate Crimes. My office is Civil Rights Bureau Chief Amy Meek. Where's Amy? She's somewhere. Serves on the commission, and we have partnered with the commission on law enforcement trainings. One reason that I sought to be Attorney General was to take on the challenge of doing more to prevent hate and all types of discrimination. I'm glad to have these new tools to assist us in this important work. We know that hate crimes and bias incidents are underreported, and that's why it's crucial to provide more reporting options like Help Stop Hate website and helpline. I would encourage anyone who has experienced hate or witnessed an incident of hate or bias to call or visit the website and to take the first step to help stop hate in Illinois. Thank you, and it's my pleasure to introduce Illinois Department of Human Rights Director Jim Bennett.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor Pritzker, Lieutenant Governor Stratton, and Attorney General Raoul. I am Jim Bennett, Director of the Illinois Department of Human Rights, and I also chair the Illinois Commission on Discrimination and Hate Crimes. Under the leadership of our governor, Illinois leads nationally in developing a statewide approach to address this sharp rise in hate we've been talking about. We bring together response and prevention through education, community engagement, peace building, and now the Help Stop Hate service that we're launching today. This administration, clearly evident today, centers civil and human rights in all of its work, and I'm so thankful for the incredible support that our commission's been given. Members of the commission, all here today, reflect diverse backgrounds, cultures, communities, and they include advocates, educators, subject matter experts, and among them leaders from the Illinois State Police and the AG's office. When Governor Pritzker appointed our commission, great care was taken to select advocates that really cared about their communities, but most importantly, people that were committed to finding common ground in our shared humanity. It can certainly feel heavy to focus and talk so much about hate. But in working with this commission, I truly believe we have found the joy in service. My colleagues are people who find strength in our diversity and have a clear understanding that we are not powerless to stop the rise of hate. In 2022, the commission released recommendations for Illinois, and today the top recommendation becomes a reality with the launch of Help Stop Hate, a confidential service that's providing support and resources to individuals and communities in need. We'll assist victims and witnesses of hate acts in reporting what happened and connecting them with the vital resources that they'll need. The launch of Help Stop Hate today will be followed by a statewide multilingual campaign focused on reaching communities that are most frequently targeted and really the hardest to reach. We're building trusting relationships throughout our state, many of our partners here today, so we're so happy to see you, to make sure that Illinois stands with all of our diverse communities and make clear that we reject hate in all of its forms. Hate acts often go unreported because targeted communities may not view it as a hate crime. As the Lieutenant Governor said, they may feel that it's something they just have to accept, or they may be fearful or feel shame in reporting these crimes or incidents. To stop acts of hate, we need to know when, where, and most importantly, why they happened. Help Stop Hate will work to fill that gap, allowing people to report hate in 7 languages or with our call specialist. And our intention is to collect better and more comprehensive data. We know that that's a challenge. That will help us improve services, strengthen policies, increase resources for all Illinoisans. We're also launching a statewide study on hate that will begin early next year. It's also worth noting that in addition to the Department of Justice funding this helpline that we're talking about today, the Attorney General's office also received DOJ funding that created the hate crimes training for law enforcement that he mentioned that is now available. Our commission is currently conducting town halls with the AG's office to educate advocacy organizations and law enforcement around the state on a bill that's currently before the Illinois Assembly that'll mandate hate crimes training for law enforcement. Those town halls are still open, and so if people are interested, they're on our website as well. We have a well-comprised and well-resourced body to help drive and coordinate all the energy and activity we are now seeing. In Illinois, we are truly leading the way. It is now my privilege to introduce a good friend as well as a fellow commissioner with the Illinois Commission on Discrimination and Hate Crimes and CEO of Brave Space Alliance, probably one of our loudest and proudest leaders in the fight for equality, Ms. Shannon Lynn Parker.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I think it's set like this to keep us all woke, to be honest with you. Levity. Thank you so much, Director Bennett. I am Shannon Lynn Parker, she, her pronouns. I am the CEO of Brave Space Alliance, and I am a proud commissioner with the Illinois Commission on Discrimination and Hate Crimes. So as CEO of Brave Space Alliance, the first Black-led TLBGQ plus center located on the south side of Chicago, I know firsthand the resounding harm hate has on people and communities. A hateful slur shouted from a passing car, bullying and mean-spirited jokes from a coworker, online harassments and threats, verbal harassment while waiting for the train, slurs written on the window of a local business, violent assault on the walk home after work, and may I even add the things that we allow to be said even in our own homes. Targeting one person targets an entire community, creating a sense of fear and belief that certain people just don't belong and cannot feel safe. Hate and intolerance divide and exclude us, perpetuating centuries of injustice and inequality in this country. So, as we all know, standing up against hate takes bravery, and we must be brave. Brave to be our authentic selves, brave to ask for support and resources when we are the target of hates, and brave to report the acts of hate as we witness them. With the launch of Help Stop Hate, we have a new tool to stand up against hate. Help Stop Hate is a free, confidential service that connects people with culturally competent resources and identifies next steps so that victims and witnesses get the help that they need. It is not affiliated with law enforcement, and people can report anonymously if they so choose. When you report online or call, the Help Stop Hate team will connect you with resources and supports tailored to your experience, your identity or community, and where you live. Your reports will also help prevent the escalation of hate in the future. By reporting hate through Help Stop Hate, you will help us to better understand when and where hate acts are happening, so we can funnel resources to the communities where they are most needed. To help stop the rise of hate, we need every one of you to be brave. Report hate that you experience or witness at ilstophate.org or 877-458-HATE. Tell your friends, family, and community about this new tool to report hate. Your reports will make a difference in stopping the rise of hate. So let's work together towards an Illinois where everyone can be their authentic selves without fear. I would like to welcome back up Governor Pritzker to take questions from the media. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Happy to take any questions. Sarah. Maybe we can jump around after you ask the first two. How about that? Yeah.
Speaking of hate, we can talk a little bit about the presidential election. Can you comment on President Biden's comment calling
Look, I don't think that it was meant in the way that some people have taken it, and I do think that it's out of an exasperation that there are so many people who, for example, spoke person after person at Madison Square Garden expressing thoughts of hate openly and seemingly proudly. And I think it's an exasperation with what's going on with some people in the country.
And do you feel it's appropriate for Vice President Harris to make her final argument about fascism?
Appropriate?
Appropriate, but do you think this is smart idea?
Look, I think there are a lot of people who are motivated. I think if you look at the polling data on what's motivating people to show up at the polls, one of the top issues is the threat to democracy. So, addressing one of the top issues on people's minds is not inappropriate. I think there are other things that are also on people's minds, and I've often said this, as somebody who's, been a national advocate for abortion rights and someone who has fought against hate. I can say people don't show up at the polls with one issue in mind. They have a lot of things on their minds. Some may be more important than others. So I think trying to address the concerns of a lot of people in a final argument, and by the way, there's 6 days left, and so there's an opportunity, I think, to express lots of other things over the course of the next 6 days. But I think that democracy is, it'd be hard-pressed to find somebody in this room or around the state or the nation who doesn't have that on their list of concerns. And so I'm glad that she's talking about it. Yep.
Relating to the Help Stop Hate program, what happens after a report is made, specifically if it isn't affiliated with law enforcement?
Yeah. So maybe I could ask Jim if you wouldn't mind talking about the various organizations that are involved, addressing the concerns of victims too.
The Help Stop Hate will work first to help connect to law enforcement. So any hate crime, we want to work with law enforcement, the local police, the Illinois State Police, the Attorney General's office can be contacted, so we can help in that. We can also then provide resources. So, for example, if someone doesn't feel safe in their home, there's resources available as well. And we're in the process. We've built a very strong resource network around the state of Illinois, and our goal is that when something happens, I'm gay, so if for me, I would likely call Equality Illinois or Howard Brown or a group that I feel connected to and that I trust, and then we want to be connected to those groups so they know how to reach out to us, and vice versa. And so that's our approach. And then we can also do follow-up. So there's people that may call and then they get scared and they need to take a break, or they're not ready to share all that information, and our people can call back if they're comfortable with that and then continue that relationship.
So when you say that the first step is to connect to law enforcement, is that voluntary?
Yes.
How much money is coming from the DOJ?
I believe it's 1.3 million. 1.1 million. I'm getting a sign behind me. Over a 3-year period. And then the state of Illinois, through the Department of Human Rights, also has money for the Hate Crimes Commission, and so there's support for there as well. It's part of our ongoing general budget, so I don't have a specific amount. I'll pass it back to the governor. Yes? Okay, good.
I just wanted to add one other resource that wasn't spoken about, but just to add to it, we've substantially expanded mental health resources, and I think that's another piece of the puzzle here, particularly for victims. Yes, Isabel. It's another piece of information, I think, that needs to be taken into account by ICC. The ICC makes decisions on its own in rate cases. I think that, as you know, there's a debate that's going on about pipe replacement, natural gas pipe replacement, for example. And, if at some point in the future, I don't know when exactly, although in Illinois it would be by 2050, that natural gas is no longer a substantial provider of energy. The question is, how much money do you want to put into pipe replacement between now and then for pipes that would last for 50 plus years? So that I think is the debate that's going on, and ICC is, I think, commendably debating that internally and having their staff examine the question.
What side of the debate are you on? Should these pipes be replaced if we're in 2050 relying that much on them?
I'm not an expert. What I am is somebody who has been a principal advocate for the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, which is really driving the change to sources of energy that are other than fossil fuel, clean energy. So I'm proud of that. I'll keep doing that. I don't know exactly how many years of pipe should be replaced and what the amount should be. And I think the ICC, at least at the moment, appears to be examining that closely and taking it seriously. Yeah, Olivia.
There's some reporting that the Mayor Johnson
That I'm sorry. That the
Mayor
mayor.
Johnson is expected to announce a property tax hike today. You previously said that the state has provided enough assistance that local jurisdictions would be able to maybe lower property taxes. Do you think that's true of Chicago today?
I would not characterize my comments the way you just did. Enough assistance. I think that all of us who believe in a better public education for kids across the state of Illinois believe that there are more resources needed for public education. And we've been doing that every single year that I've been in office. And indeed, I think the total amount of new funding that's been provided since I took office is more than $4 billion. We've added $350 million each year, except for one where we had a lot of federal funding coming in. This is at the beginning of the pandemic, where the state was also challenged. But in addition to that, hundreds of millions of dollars more to education that are not part of the evidence-based funding model, so more than the $350 a year. So as to the question of whether the state should provide more money to local governments in other ways, I've been doing that literally every year in every other way. Schools is one major important part of the issue of property taxes, right? Illinois, just to remind you, this is maybe a longer answer than you wanted, but just to remind you, when I came into office, Illinois, the state, was providing 24% of education funding. That's the worst in the country when I came into office. The rest of it being provided by property taxes, vast majority, and a little bit, 10% or so, from the federal government. Today, we're up in the 30s. So we've gone from 24% to better. The average state is providing 46% of funding from state government. So we have a long way to go. But in the meantime, we're doing a lot better than we've ever done before, putting more resources into schools. And what does that do? It allows local governments to at least abate the pressure to increase property taxes. Many have not taken us up on that, which is just disturbing to me. I know that there's a need for more funding, that people feel like, there isn't ever enough, but property taxes are already too high. And so the more that attention can be given, and that is by local school boards, including the one in Chicago, but local school board when it is fully convened and elected. But across the state of Illinois, it's local school boards that impose property taxes related to schools. And honestly, they've received more money than ever before from us. I think that they should take that seriously and try to abate the increases in property taxes.
So you said it was disturbing that they've not taken that opportunity.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's true if the mayor does announce?
Well, the city's in a little bit different position, but property taxes are too high for everybody. I mean, if you're asking me that question, I think that's an easy one for everybody. And I understand, though, that there is stress in the city budget. They've got to figure out. I have talked about the need for efficiencies, the need to make sure that you're not, haven't put your ARPA dollars entirely into your operating budget. And I don't know what the percentage is for the city rather, but it's a reasonably high percentage. And so that obviously causes problems. We tried not to do that at the state level. We also have, tight budgets, and, we'll continue to. But I would like to see some recognition that property taxes already are a burden.
Would you support layoffs and furloughs instead of property taxes?
I can't tell you what all the levers are. I know that's been talked about. No, nobody wants to lay anybody off. That's a hardship on the people who get laid off for sure. I can tell you that when we were faced at the state level, just to go back to a day when it was really hard during my term in office, was when the pandemic hit, and we were in the spring of 2020 and putting forward our FY21 budget. We had a budget, we passed, and then going into FY21, it seemed clear that we need to make cuts at that point because revenues were falling off a cliff, and we didn't have what ended up being the American Rescue Plan Act. And so we found $700 million of cuts to make it. I mean, that is not easy. I'm not suggesting anybody wants to do that, but we did it. We did it without laying people off. But we did it, and I know I don't want to see anybody laid off. There are lots of solutions to these problems that need to be brought to the fore. I'm sure the mayor is examining all those. I have no idea what he's saying in his speech today about that. Yes, Isabel. I don't think this has anything to do with that question, whether it should be elected. Every school board across the state, other than the city of Chicago, has an elected school board. I think it's the right thing to do to have an elected school board. If you're asking whether I condone the remarks that were made, I do not. And I must say that to the extent that someone is put up for a position, especially one as important as chair of the Chicago schools, I think vetting is vitally important. That doesn't seem to have occurred here. All I can say is that I think we should hear from the chair more about what his positions really are. He's written things, but people can have theoretically changed their views. I also think that the record should be more examined. I haven't seen all the detail, but I understand there's quite a lot that he has posted online. And so there's more to come, and I think judgment should be, at least a thorough final judgment should be withheld pending a look at that.
Should that have been done before they named him?
I said that, yeah. I mean, you're supposed to vet people. Look, can you miss things in people's vets? Sure, but it feels like Facebook posts are pretty easy to find. And so, we need to, you do have to ask the question, who vetted him? And again, sometimes people say things. I just want to be clear. It is possible that people write things or say things that they didn't mean, in the heat of passion, one time or twice. So if that's the case, the chair should say something about that. If that's not the case, and this is somebody's lifelong record, I think, for example, Donald Trump is an example of somebody who has a very long record, and I think it's fairly straightforward what he believes. So I just want to be clear that, more vetting should have been done. Yep. Thank you.